Next, let's bring you some news from the French overseas territory of New Caledonia. Today, authorities there have sent more police out onto the streets and shut the international airport, as well as imposed a curfew in the capital. This after protests turned violent yesterday. At issue is a plan by the government here in Paris to change New Caledonia's voting rules, a move that local leaders fear will dilute the power of the indigenous populations there. To tell us a bit more, Marc Perelman, our French politics editor, is with me. And Marc, just let's start with that then. Why have we seen so much unrest over the past 24 hours in New Caledonia?
Well, because of this proposed constitutional change led by the government that's before the National Assembly today. It has already been endorsed by the Senate. And for a constitution to be revived, you need both chambers of parliament to convene together and vote formally. This was the plan. However, there is, as you pointed out, opposition by the native population known as the Kanaks, because this would change essentially the electoral body for upcoming provincial elections. There's a very specific system in New Caledonia. Not everyone can vote because the electoral body was frozen, quote unquote, back in 2007 by then President Jacques Chirac, because he knew there were tensions between the native population and those who came later on. And he wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be any problem because there were peace negotiations after violent episodes in the past. Now the government says we have to change that because it's not fair anymore. So we want to enlarge the body of those who are allowed to vote. And there is a new rule that would take hold now, whereby if you've been a resident for 10 years, you will be able to vote in those upcoming provincial elections. However, there's strong opposition because the native population, at least some militant groups, feel that this is a way for France to keep control of the territory. And so this is why you have those scenes of violence. And we've seen movements by the president, the prime minister who spoke before the National Assembly to say, okay, we will not rush through this constitutional reform. I'm inviting everyone to come to Paris to sit down to see if we can calm the situation down.
And what is the government trying to do for the moment?
Well, trying to earn some time to avoid further violence and saying, we don't want to impose our will on the populations there. We need to keep the situation quiet. The problem is, this is a rather technical issue, but it's a symbolic issue. Why? Because it's an overseas territory. There were 3 referendums conducted in recent years to decide whether New Caledonia should remain part of France or not. In each case, the yes to remain part of France won. However, the last vote, there was a really very strong abstention because the native population didn't accept the terms of the referendum. So there is clearly a very sensitive issue of whether New Caledonia should continue to be a part of France, and if so, on what terms. And the government hasn't been able to find a compromise to grant some autonomy, what degree of autonomy. And so this is why it remains a very, very fraught situation there. And the government is hoping that it can calm the situation by having all the different factions come to Paris for discussions, but there's no guarantee all of them will agree and that this will die down in the coming hours or days.
Marc Perelman, thank you.